25,600 minutes. My nerves are shattered, but my house is so clean. 525,600 minutes. That's just one morning in quarantine. There's Netflix, more Netflix and cups of coffee. Then Netflix and Netflix till I want to scream. 525,600 minutes. This COVID lockdown is like a terrible dream. I want to get out. Want to get out. I want to get out. Want to get out. Just for a walk. Just for a walk. 525,600 minutes. My liver hates me, my hair is a mess. 525,600 minutes since I last showered or even got dressed. Gonna stand up, take a deep breath, 'cause this lockdown has to end. And when it does, I really hope I recognize my friends, 'cause we're gonna get it out. Gonna get out. I wanna get out. Wanna get out. Just for a walk. Just for a walk.
Hello and welcome to the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto's 28th annual Pride Service. And while we aren't doing Church on Church this year, we are doing Church on Church online. Thank you for taking time on your Pride Sunday to join us for this celebration. While we had hoped to restart our in-person worship next Sunday, we are delaying that by a couple of months until at least July 19th. Keep an eye on the Query, our electronic newsletter, for more information. And if you aren't already signed up, you can do so at www.mcctoronto.com at the bottom of the page. My name is Reverend Jeff Rock, and I have the honor and the pleasure of being the senior pastor for this amazing congregation that is also a human rights center. And as we were preparing for this day, for this service months ago, I was thinking about human rights that needed lifting up. And the reality is 50% of our world's population are women who still don't have full equality in our world or even here in Canada. And women's rights are human rights, and they need highlighting. Of course, since that time, COVID-19 has spread around the world, but now more than ever, we need to make sure that the voices of women are heard because women are disproportionately affected by this pandemic. And so the theme for today's service is Divine Feminine, celebrating all women, all girls, and all things female and feminine, because women's rights are human rights. And trans women are women. Here's my trans flag. Queer women are often doubly discriminated against. And recently, the Black Lives Matter movement has led courageous conversations on race in our world and in our church. And Black women matter, and Black trans women matter, and Black queer women matter. Missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls are a continuing travesty in the country of Canada, and approximately 40 million women and girls are refugees around the world experiencing dire conditions. But misogyny, which is the hatred of women, affects men too. Many of us will have heard words like, "Man up, quit being such a sissy." That's misogyny that leads to toxic masculinity that diminishes the lives of men. And at the root of it is the hatred of women, which is also the source of homophobia and biphobia and transphobia as well. They all come from misogyny. Here in Toronto, 2 years ago, a deadly van attack on Yonge Street was motivated by that same misogyny. And earlier this year, a stabbing in a massage parlor has since been labeled a terrorist act, a misogynistic terrorist attack motivated by the hatred of women. And so, today we will remember that human rights of women, girls, female-identified folk, and all things feminine, all of those are human rights. And the human rights of women affect us all. And so it's time for me, as the senior pastor, as a man, to sit this one out and let women and female-identified folk lead this service. Amen. Amen.
Let us pray. Creator God, loving Spirit, you who go by many names, shine on us today as we come before you in all the colors of the rainbow. People of every sexual orientation, gender expression, and gender identity, each made in your image. We are people of different backgrounds and beliefs, honoring the sacred worth of creation and human rights of all, especially holding up the rights of all women, all girls, and all things female and feminine. On this day and every day, may we build bridges of love and justice for LGBTQ+ refugees, for unhoused youth, for racialized communities, justice for trans folks, for those who don't fit the binary, for those who have not yet accepted their authentic selves and who they love, or experience acceptance in their lives. May they and we all know that we are perfectly made, unconditionally loved, just the way we are. And together, may we build up a world where all hateful divisions might cease and all might be welcomed in a circle of life and love. In all your many names, amen.
Don't trouble the water. Why don't you let it be? Still water runs deep. If you only believe when you're down and out, when you're on the street, when evening falls so hard, I just want to comfort you. I'll take your part when the darkness comes and pain is all around, just like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down. I just want to lay me down. Sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. And oh, if you ever need a friend, I'm sailing right behind, just like a bridge over troubled water. Yeah, I just wanna ease your mind like a bridge over troubled water. I wanna ease your mind. Yes, I do. Wanna be a bridge over troubled water, bridge over your troubled water bridge. I will lay me down. I wanna be that bridge. I wanna lay me down. I wanna ease your mind, Lord, Lord. Bridge over your troubled water. Just wanna ease your mind. I just wanna lay me down, lay me down. Ease your mind. Ease your mind.
Reading from Proverbs 31, a capable woman. She girdles herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her goods are profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reach out her hands to the needy. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Many women have done excellently, but she surpassed them all.
Well, hi, folks. Happy Pride. I'm Reverend Dina Dudley, and I am proud to be here. And in no particular order, I am proud to be the assistant pastor here at Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto. I'm proud to be at Pride, however we've had to pull it off this year. Proud to be a gender nonconforming woman. My mother tried to put me in a frilly dress once. It did not go well. I'm proud to be a lesbian. Proud to be married to the woman of my dreams, Janet. Proud to be a woman of faith. And proud to be an American who chooses to live in Canada, where I can do and be all of those things in freedom and safety. I am painfully aware that Pride this year is not what it usually is. I'm here in our sanctuary at MCC Toronto instead of down on Church Street or in Ryerson Theatre, and as an aside, it is just as hot in here today as it would be on Church Street Sunday morning, so don't think I'm missing out on that. But one of the things that Pride was going to be this year was a bit of an homage to women and girls. The theme that Pride Toronto had decided on at one point was girl power, a celebration of all things female, and sadly that kind of got lost in all the pivoting. So since I'm preaching today, I decided, we all decided at MCC, that we would kind of stick with that theme. And so this is a celebration of all women, all girls, all things female and feminine. And in case the rest of you are feeling a wee bit left out at that, please hang in there for the next 10 minutes or so, because you'll see that this is for everyone. Trust me. Did you know that MCC Toronto has been doing Church on Church at Pride for 28 years in a row? Rain or shine. But this is the first time a woman has been the preacher. So I am hugely honored, but I'm also, I don't know, maybe a wee bit disappointed that it took so long. The church, not MCC Toronto, I mean the Church Universal, the capital C Church, has a lot to answer for when it comes to women. As Jeff said in his intro, toxic masculinity and misogyny, the hatred of women, affects all of us, men and women alike. Gay, straight, or non-binary, cis or trans, it harms all of us. And sadly, the church has been complicit in that. For thousands of years, the church has ignored women, made us invisible, denigrated our gifts and callings, silenced our voices. The early church fathers, there were also church mothers, but we don't hear too much about them for some reason. They did all kinds of theological twists and turns and backflips to promote the notion that only men and not women were created in the image of God, as if women were an afterthought. We were called unclean. We were called intellectually inferior. We were called the reason for sin in the world. Remember Eve and the apple? All her fault. All our fault. And part of the problem has been that the only images we humans seem to be able to envision and draw on for thousands of years are gendered images. And I want to give a shout out to my non-binary siblings for disrupting that, because those images have lacked any sort of balance and really any sort of imagination. Perhaps if we really need to think of God in human terms, we might better think of God as non-binary. And yet, for nearly the entire history of the Christian church, pretty much for the last 2,000 years, God has always been called He. Now, I'm not going to insist that the church call God she for the next 2,000 years, but I am going to highlight the ways in which we as women, all across the gender spectrum, we as human beings can celebrate the divine feminine together, and the ways in which doing so lifts us all. You know, I wrote and rewrote this lesson a whole bunch of times. This is actually draft number 5. And I was going to go on at some length about how the Bible is chock full of beautiful feminine images for God, God as a nurturing spirit, God as the feminine personification of wisdom, as Brenda Lee read for us a minute ago, God as the divine mother. And I was going to show you with copious citations to chapter and verse just some of the many, many ways in which God is portrayed as female. I am probably kind of notorious for going on at great length about what the Bible does and does not say, but we just don't have time for that today. So I had to rewrite that part and eventually toss it all together. And I was prepared also to go on at great length about the history of the Christian church and how it's ignored and silenced women, even women who had great spiritual truths and insights to share with the faithful. How the church called us heretics and witches when we tried to make our voices heard. But eventually I rewrote that too and tossed it too, and because I'm guessing most of us, certainly all of us who are female, know this already. And if you didn't know it, ask a woman someday when you've got time to sit and listen for a while. And while all of that would have been really interesting, mostly to me, it's not why I'm here today. Today is Pride. And Pride is many, many wonderful things. And first and foremost, it's a celebration of who we are, a celebration of the freedom that we have to be just exactly who we are, and a celebration of how far we've come. But Pride is also a protest. That first Pride 51 years ago was a bit of a riot started by transgender women. And I pay tribute to Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, women who were sick and tired of being oppressed and persecuted and pushed around. Oh, trust me, the world better watch out for women who are sick and tired of being pushed around. And there's always a need for both celebration and protest, because Pride is a coming together of diverse communities and a push towards self-acceptance and love. So today we celebrate. We celebrate women, all girls, all things female and feminine. There are all kinds of women in this world. You might have noticed. There are young women and old women, tall women, short women, slender women and women of great substance like myself. There are women of all races and colors, black women, white women, indigenous women, Asian women, women of mixed races, women from the north, the south, the east, the west. There are trans women, cis women, non-binary women, gender non-conforming women. They're all women, and in my mind, they are all beautiful. I do love women, but I digress. They're all women and they're all beautiful and they are all endowed in the very image of God. And we are all equally entitled to the basic human rights and dignity that we all deserve, but some of us don't get. And they are all loved by God just the way they are, unconditionally and passionately and eternally. So today, as we celebrate Pride, it's important to recognize our progress and also acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do in the world and in our own communities. I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me once, and it may have happened to some of you. Pre-COVID, my wife and I spent a fair bit of time south of the border. And on one of these road trips, we found ourselves at a mall in a smallish place in rural Indiana, and we thought we should use the washroom. And when I walked in, there were 3 little teeny boppers fixing their makeup, and they gave me a look. And one of them said in a really snarky tone, "This is a ladies' room, you know." I almost turned around. But my fierce femme wife, who was right behind me, got all up in their faces and said, "What is your point? How old are you? You think you're an expert on what it means to be a woman?" And they left, somewhat expeditiously. Here's the thing. Did that make me feel out of place or unsafe? You bet it did. But did it change who I am and the way I choose to express that? Nope. Did it change my claim to the term woman? No, because I get to decide what being a woman means for me. It is my God-given right to choose how I express my truth and what that means about my gender expression and how I share that with the world. And also, as an aside, it never hurts to have a really fierce femme running interference for you. Maybe some places in our world aren't ready for me yet, but that doesn't change my divine right to be all of who I am, based on my understanding of how God made me. For me, and for MCC Toronto, the work of human rights is part of the reason we exist. It's not something we do one day a year on Pride, it's what we work at day in and day out. So today, on Pride, we celebrate. Pride isn't canceled. Pride isn't just the parade we can't have. Pride's a feeling, a joy, a celebration of our God-given right to be exactly who God made us to be in all of our wonderfully diverse expressions. So today, I celebrate all women. I want to celebrate women and women's accomplishments and contributions. I want to note in a timely sort of way that many of the countries in this world that are making the best progress against the COVID-19 pandemic, places like New Zealand, Germany, Taiwan, Iceland, Finland, Norway, Denmark, are, by an amazing coincidence, led by women. And I also wish to point out that here in Canada, we're reliant on women's excellent leadership in this public health crisis, from Canada's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, to the 7 provincial Chief Medical Officers who are women. I know this because my wife has a t-shirt with all their names on it and she wears it proudly. And Pride is a celebration of our accomplishments and our freedom. And as women, we come into our own when we embrace the freedom to be who God made us to be, without stereotypes or imposed roles based on somebody else's idea of who a woman ought to be or how she ought to look or what she ought to do. Because there are all kinds of ways to be a woman in this world, all kinds of ways to be a man. And perhaps most importantly, there are really way more than just those 2 options. That freedom to be who we are is for all of us. Look at the world around us. It is so hugely, marvelously diverse, and God calls it very good. God loves that diversity. Turns out it was true. What they said when I was little, more than they meant it, I expect. I can be anybody I want to be. I can be a big old butch dyke with jeans and flannel shirts and hopefully cowboy boots. Or I can wear lipstick and dresses. Actually, Janet says I can't do that, and she's probably right. But I can go out into this world as a man or a woman or whatever I feel like on any given day. We can be all sorts of wonderful things. We can do all sorts of wonderful things, and we will. And God will love us. So let's celebrate that. Happy Pride.
Don't be discouraged, though I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like rainbow. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I saw you laughing. This world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear. You call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like rainbow. If this world makes you crazy, you've taken all you can bear. You call me up because you know I'll be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, that's why I love you. So don't be afraid, let them show your true colors. True, I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, that's why I love you. Don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. Your true colors are beautiful like rainbow.
Hi MCC friends, my name is Reverend June Joplin and I'm a pastor in Mississauga. I'm also a woman who didn't always recognize that she was a woman who lived for much of her life with this nagging intuition that there was something off about what everyone else expected her to be. It took me most of 40 years to learn to trust that intuition, and about 2 weeks ago, I finally summoned up the courage to say in front of the world that yes, I am a woman. I am grateful to be a woman. I am happy to be a woman. I am proud to be a woman. All that said, it's a bit of a challenge for me to reflect on what womanhood means to me. Because I'll confess, I don't have a lot of social experience with womanhood to draw from. For most of my life, I was socialized as and perceived as a man. I know, that's crazy, right? But everybody thought that I was a boy, and so that's how they treated me. I spent so many years thinking, well, if everybody thinks I'm a guy, if everybody sees me as a guy, if everybody treats me as a guy, who am I to say anything different? It's like I was being gaslit into accepting lies about my own identity, my own truth. In her wonderful new book, The 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls, the Egyptian-American activist Mona El-Tahawi writes about how patriarchy conspires to make women unwilling to assert ourselves, even when we feel like we should. Instead, we are socialized into saying that we're sorry, even when we shouldn't be, and to doubt our own experiences. Mona tells the infuriating story of Kyle Stevens, a gymnast who, at the age of 12, told her parents that she had been sexually abused by her coach. Stevens said that abuse began when she was 6. But what did the people say to her when she bravely told the truth about her coach? They said, "How dare you try to ruin the reputation of this notable man?" And rather than pursuing justice and working to prevent further assaults from occurring, the grown-ups in Kyle's life made her publicly apologize for what she had said. She knew the truth, that her coach was an abuser, but because Kyle was a girl, nobody believed her. Now, thankfully, eventually the coach stood trial for abusing something like 250 women and girls, and today he is serving out a very long prison sentence. Like I said, I don't have much social experience as a woman, and I've never been preyed upon the way that Kyle Stevens was, but when I hear stories about being made to apologize for being courageous, about a world that wants girls to know that what you know deep down really isn't true, I think I can relate. From childhood, I heard this voice whispering to me saying, "You are a girl." But nobody would have believed me if I'd said that out loud. I don't think I'd have even believed it myself. And you know, I might never have come to believe it if it weren't for communities of support like MCC Toronto. I remember my first visit on a Sunday night almost 2 years ago. I actually showed up presenting mail that evening, and I heard Reverend Dina preach a sermon about being brave. I specifically remember her saying that she thought transgender people were some of the bravest people that she knew. When Dina said hi to me after the service, I said to her, "You know, I think that I might be transgender." I knew from then that MCC was a place I would never have to worry about somebody saying, "No, June, you're not really a woman. You're crazy. You're wrong. You're broken." Nobody here would ever try to convince me that that voice, that truth inside of me, was wrong. And so it was the next Sunday night when I came back to MCC, I did it as my authentic self. And although I'm serving in another church and I can't visit that often, I've always shown up as my authentic self to MCC, and I've always felt safe and affirmed and seen. For me, being a woman meant taking a leap of faith and telling the truth about my identity in words that some people would rather that I never speak. For me, being a woman meant growing to believe the truth inside me, even when others wanted me to doubt myself. And MCC was a special place. It is a special place. And it's a sacred place where my faith could grow. So happy Pride. You are beloved.
Hi, I'm Ann Braley. The story we just heard is just one example of why I've been part of MCC Toronto for the last 30 years. People come to us from all walks of life, all around the world, because our message resonates in a way that touches them at whatever part of their life's journey they're on. I'm really pleased that we've been celebrating all things feminine for Pride this month. Women's rights are human rights. It's also true that MCC Toronto is a human rights church for the entire LGBTQ2+ community and our allies inside and outside the church. It hasn't been so easy this last while. 6 months ago, who would have imagined that we'd be celebrating Pride online together? The important thing is, we are together. Maybe you're here for the first time. Maybe this is the only time that you'll be attending our service as part of your own Pride celebrations. Or maybe you're a longtime congregant like me. However you came here today, if you believe that MCC Toronto is an important, vital human rights organization, I hope you'll consider making a one-time or even an ongoing gift. Normally, this is the time we'd be taking up the offering at our beautiful outdoor service, but we can't do that today. So we've made it really easy to make a gift online at mcctoronto.com/donate. Thanks so much, and I so hope we're all together again soon.
Can anybody find me somebody to love? Each morning I get up, I die a little, can't barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror and cry, Lord, what you doing to me? I've spent all of my years in believing you, but I just can't get no believing. Lord, somebody, oh somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love? I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the day, I take home my heart and pay all on my own. I go down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody, oh somebody, can anybody find me somebody to love? But everybody wants to put me down. They say I'm going crazy. They say I got a lot of water on my brain. I got no common sense, got nobody left to believe in. Yeah, yeah. I just keep losing my beat. Oh, I'm okay, I'm alright. I ain't gonna face no defeat. I just gotta get out of this prison cell. One day I'm gonna be free, Lord. Find me. Somebody find me.
The Honoring Our Heroes Award is presented by MCC Toronto at our annual Pride service to recognize unsung heroes in their push for human rights. This year's recipient leveraged a lifetime's experience of activism to respond to the needs of our city's most vulnerable when the COVID-19 pandemic put us all into lockdown. At a time when many were scaremongering, inciting fear and anxiety, with nothing more than a computer, she founded a Facebook group called Caremongering Toronto as a simple online tool where people who needed help could ask for it, and those willing to help could offer it. She enabled generosity and sharing, providing support to folks when they needed the most. Their manifesto states that they are centered on marginalized people, including the sick, disabled, older, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, people of color, migrants, refugees, housing and food insecure folks, sex workers, incarcerated folks, precarious workers, and all workers marginalized by our society. And they have no tolerance for oppression or harassment, and they honor key principles of generosity, kindness, and respect. This grassroots commitment to mutual aid quickly attracted the attention of the BBC, who did a news story in the early days of the pandemic, and President Obama, who tweeted a link to a Washington Post article about this group. The term caremongering even made it into one of Reverend Jeff's sermons. Soon, caremongering groups were popping up in Oshawa, Hamilton, Vancouver, Indonesia, and a worldwide movement to care for the most vulnerable during this health crisis was born. It is our distinct pleasure to present this year's Honoring Our Heroes Award to Mita Hans and the team of people here in Toronto and around the world showing compassion in their vibrant commitment to caremongering. Congratulations. Happy Pride and happy caremongering.
Thank you so much for this. I'm sitting in my house, and that's a little weird. I'm on First Nations territory, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this started. This started on March 10th when everybody started talking about what was going on, and COVID was coming, and it was going to be really, really scary. And I needed to get my neighbors safe. I started thinking about the people who can't do this for themselves, who are going to need a little help. They're telling us, wash your hands and go grocery shopping and stock up and have everything ready. And I started thinking, well, what about the people who can't wash their hands? What are they going to do? We have like 150 plus reserves and without clean drinking water. There's people on the street that don't have access to be able to wash their hands. This is where caremongering started, and it started with 3 questions. Who are the most vulnerable amongst us? What do they need? And how do we get it to them? And from there, I reached out, I started a Facebook group, and my incredible team of people jumped aboard and said, how can we help? It spread from Toronto to Hamilton to Guelph to London to Kelowna to Nunavut to Halifax, and then it started spreading across the ocean. And a group started in India. They're at 46,000 strong now. And to Malaysia, to South Africa, and currently we're 1 million plus people in over 300 groups aligning themselves with caremongering. Mutual aid didn't start with us, and I just want to be clear on that mutual aid is ancient. It's been around for as long as people have needed help and have looked to each other.
May God's love bless and keep you. May the Lord's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may God grant you peace in your going out and your coming in, your lying down and rising up. tears, until we come to stand before Jesus on the day in which there is no dawning, no sunset, no death, and no disease. Go now, rejoicing that God loves you.
That song you just heard was our Pride and Joy Choir singing a benediction written by Robert Schuler and often spoken by our Senior Pastor Emeritus, Reverend Dr. Brent Hawks. It leaves us with the beautiful image of a world full of love and justice. We can imagine a world after COVID-19. We can imagine a world without HIV and AIDS. We can imagine a world where Black Lives Matter, where people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions are fully celebrated. And a world where women, girls, trans women, Black women, Indigenous women, refugee women, and, well, everyone have their human rights fully affirmed. Together we can, and we will make it so. Happy Pride.
We are family. I got all my family with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing.
Yes,
We are family.
oh yeah, yeah,
I got all my family with me.
yeah, everybody.
We are family.
Yes, we are.
Get up, everybody, and sing.
Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by. And we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose.
We are family.
Yes, we are.
I got all my family with me.
All around me.
We are family.
Hey, hey, hey.
Get up, everybody, and
Sing.
We are
We
family.
are family.
I got all my family.
I got my family with me. We are
family.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everybody,
Sing. Living life is fun and we've just begun to get a share of the world's delight. High hopes we have for the future and our goals inside. We know we don't get depressed. This is what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do. You won't go wrong. Oh no, this is our family too.
We are family.
We are family.
I got all my family.
I got my family with me. We are
family.
hey, hey, hey.
Get up, everybody, and sing.
Get up, get up. We are
Family.
well, sing along.
I got all my family with me.
Hey, hey, hey. We
Our family.
we're family.
Get up, everybody,
Get up,
and
get
sing.
up, get up, get up.
We are
We
are family.
We are family.
We are family. We are family. We are family.
We are family.
We are family.